Bulls and Bears. Today we're talking about anti-aging and had a quick question about publicly traded investments for investors that are looking to capitalize on what's going on in the anti-aging market. In 2013, the estimate is about $122 billion spent globally, and it's supposed to be up to almost $200 billion by 2018. And there are some publicly traded stocks, and one fund, the fund is called, the symbol is LNGR, Linger, and it's got pretty much the top holdings in the area, companies like Boston Scientific, Biogen, Medtronic, Amgen, AbbVie, a lot of biotech stocks, and it's fairly well diversified. And New Skin, we've discussed that on the show before a couple years ago. Last 12 months up about 42%, and we can address that, what they're doing, how their product is actually working. Zimmer Bionet, there's quite a few. Some of them are small, very small cap companies with 200 million market cap, 300 million, things like that. And the small companies are not for everyone. New Skin has almost a $3 billion market cap, so it's trades on the New York Stock Exchange, a little better established. And then there are some funds, and you can just, if you get into the biotech sector, you can play just the healthcare sector if you want more diversification, a conservative approach that's going to include companies that have some anti-aging products. Of course, then you can go to just play the healthcare sector of the S&P, or especially the biotechs, and play that area. And when new, smaller companies start up and do well and have good products, typically, eventually they will get bought out by a larger company, and when the big dominant companies will continue to prevail. So that's that. If you are looking for a public investment, something for your IRA or 401k, there are quite a few opportunities available to take advantage of what's going on. It's a fascinating area, and we'll get into it in some more detail. One thing talked about is how it can help with things like cancer and dementia. One thing in long-term planning people run into is the cost of a cancer battle, or coming down with Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. Very expensive. You've got to have the proper planning in place, a durable power of attorney, a medical power of attorney.
And the people who have to take care of the people with dementia.
Yeah, a lot of stress for the caretakers too.
Well, let me, I want to say that when we talk about anti-aging, we're not just talking about aging, we're talking about everything that's health related. Our goal isn't to make a lot of old people living in hospital beds with tubes sticking in them out of them. We want to make old people that are biologically young and healthy in every way, playing tennis, dancing, having the time of their lives when they're 150 years old. But yeah, it's a lot of diseases have now been shown to be connected to the lengthier telomeres.
Okay.
And one of them, the big ones, heart disease and cancer, have both been shown in numerous scientifically peer-reviewed journal studies to be affected by the lengthier telomeres. Now, telomeres are kind of difficult to measure, and so there's a lot of non-consensus in the literature, but you can find that some papers say that long telomeres increase your risk of cancer, some say that short telomeres increase your risk of cancer, but the ones that say that short telomeres increase your risk of cancer outrank the other ones 100-fold. So it's pretty clear that when telomeres get short, it induces tremendous rates of mutations in your cells, and those are what cause cells to become cancer. Every cancer ever discovered has been shown to be caused by a mutation to some gene that affects the ability of the cell to control. It affects the cell's ability to decide when it should divide and when it shouldn't divide. And if it suddenly loses that control and just divides without control, that's what cancer is. Cancer is a lack of growth control. And I did studies back in the late 1990s where I showed that if I inhibited the enzyme telomerase in cancer cells, it actually caused the cancer cells to die of old age. I was actually awarded second place for United States Inventor of the Year for that discovery, because nothing ever has been shown to be more potent at killing cancer than inhibiting telomerase in such a way that it causes the cancer cells to die of accelerated aging. That's what it does.
Okay.
So, but a lot of people, for some reason, started saying, well, if inhibiting telomerase kills cancer, then telomerase must be the cause of cancer. And it's exactly the opposite. It's actually the lack of telomerase that causes cancer. It's the short telomeres that cause all the mutations that cause cancer. And so what we have to do is we have to find ways to keep telomeres long. And so right now, numerous studies have shown that, in fact, meta-analyses have now been published where it's a review of all the other papers, have shown that the best way to keep yourself from getting cancer and to fight cancer is to keep telomerase produced in all your cells of the body, and to keep the telomeres long in all cells of your body, especially to boost your immune system's ability to fight cancer. Because one of the main reasons we get cancer is a weakened immune system.
Okay.
So this is now, I'm looking at telomerase induction, producing telomerase inside of our cells, as one of the best ways to cure cancer and prevent cancer.
Okay.
But heart disease is the same way. We have shown that when plaque builds up inside of blood vessels, it is always where the cells that line the blood vessel, the normal cells, because they're called endothelial cells and smooth muscle cells, they have short telomeres. And that's what's allowing the plaque buildup. More research is needed, but I'm working on the assumption right now that it's because the enzyme called tissue plasminogen activator, which is also an enzyme I played a role in discovering a long time ago, gets decreased in abundance on the surface of the cell when the telomeres get short. And so that increases the ability of plaque to build up, because that's what tissue plasminogen activator does, is it prevents and breaks down plaque. So I believe that we will find that cardiovascular disease is decreased in incidence and also reversed when we start lengthening telomeres in people that are having cardiovascular problems. The bottom line is when a cell divides, when a human cell divides, the telomeres get a little bit shorter. That's the clock. So the clock of aging is measuring the number of times a cell divides. So you can tell how many times a cell has divided in the past just by measuring the length of the telomeres. So what we have to do is we have to find ways to reduce the rate of unnecessary cell division.
Okay.
Now, for instance, when somebody gets multiple or muscular dystrophy, they have cells that are very sick muscle cells, and these cells die at a fast rate. And that's okay when you're young, because you have other cells that divide, stem cells mostly, stem cells that can divide to replace those cells. But every time those stem cells divide, the telomeres get a little bit shorter, and as a result, it exhausts, because telomeres, when we're first conceived, our telomeres are 15,000 bases in length. Bases is a unit of measurement of DNA.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're born, they're already down to 10,000. And when they get down to 5,000, our cells lose the ability to function, and that's when we die of old age. And we know this from cells in a petri dish, and we also know, taking the cells from various skin samples from people at different ages, when the telomeres get down to 5,000 bases, our cells lose the ability to function, they lose the ability to divide, and that's what causes us to die of old age. So in the case of like the multiple muscular dystrophy, what we find is that the for all the cell division needed to replace those dying cells, the stem cells telomeres get down to 5,000 bases and then no longer can divide to replace those dead cells. As a result, you suddenly start seeing that you have muscular dystrophy. If we could keep telomeres long in those cells with like the type of drugs we're trying to develop,
Mm-hmm.
people with muscular dystrophy can probably live completely normal lives. There's multiple sclerosis is the same
Mm-hmm.
thing. That's where cells called Schwann cells, or a type of glia cell that I call them caregiver cells of our neurons.
Okay.
And so when those telomeres get short from all the division causing them to be replaced, that's when we start seeing dementia and things like that. Studies now, I might have already said this, but studies now have shown that when we lengthen telomeres in demented mice, and the dementia is often very similar to Alzheimer's disease,
Right.
we find their memory comes back which is now strongly suggesting that memory is not, and Alzheimer's and other form of dementias are not loss of memory as much as they are loss of access to the memory.
Mhm.
And lengthening the telomeres restores that access.
Are there any diseases that you've come across so far that aren't affected by telomere length?
Amazing, I mean, the reason I pause when I answer questions like that is because every quack and charlatan, for as long as history can remember, has stood on street corners saying, I have Dr. So-and-so's know-it-all that cures everything.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, so far, we have not found a single disease that is not connected to the length of your telomeres. Even the common cold now has been shown, but mostly because a lot of these things affect your immune system. So by lengthening telomeres when you have the common cold will boost your immune system to help you fight the common cold. Even AIDS now has been shown. You know, people think the AIDS virus does a lot of horrible things to a person, but in fact, the only thing the AIDS virus does to a person infected is it causes their immune system to die of accelerated aging. That's why they don't know they even have AIDS for 2 to 20 years, 2 to 10 years after they get infected, is because it takes a while for the immune system to get to die of old age, and then all of a sudden they start getting
sick fast.
Kaposi, sarcoma, everything. People die for all the secondary things that result from destroying the immune system. It's called immune deficiency virus, and so that's what all it does is it does it, but it does it by accelerating the telomere shortening, keeping the telomeres long. In AIDS patients, we believe will allow AIDS patients to live normal lives, even though they'll still be infected with the virus.
Okay, stay tuned. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back talking about anti-aging.